UnitedNetwork.Earth, bringing people together.
And now, the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. The invisible glass ceiling is real. How the deep state created control systems of all industries worldwide, and what you need to know. The CDC, FDA, and the World Health Organization have been circulating internal memos about the possibility of creating a bird flu pandemic. Will they succeed? And a status update on ongoing operations against the deep state. Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hey, Kim.
Hello, Sunny. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. We made it.
I almost didn't make it. I know. I was running so late, mainly just because I've been really busy this morning. And part of it, or most of it, has to do with ongoing operations, statuses, and, of course, we'll talk about that towards the end.
Okay.
But anyway, everything's going pretty well. So
Good.
I'm happy about the results so far. Okay. One thing I want to talk about, which I feel is really, really important to understand moving forward. Mm-hmm. So again, the CARE organization is responsible, and that means multiple people. It's not just one person. Will be responsible for completing a restoration of all systems of society in which we live. Mm-hmm. So the way we get our food, the way we get our water, the way we house ourselves, travel, everything has to be revamped and revised. And as a part of that, it's important to understand what I call the invisible glass ceiling, because this will come up and will be a problem and is going to be a system unto itself that we need to unwind. Mm-hmm. Now, the invisible glass ceiling, and by glass ceiling, I mean it refers to us average everyday humans and why we cannot make it past a certain point in business, even if we create an amazing product or we create an amazing service or a medical innovation or whatever it is. And it's more than just, where they hunt down scientists and, all of the stories that we've heard and we know are true. Mm-hmm. But I really cannot stress enough, and I've talked about it a little bit, about the non-compete plan that has been written and revised and rewritten to fit every different global power center. So the one that was supposed to be upcoming has a lot to do with China and China becoming the world's power center versus the United States. And this is a plan that has been in play for a long time with the deep state. Mm-hmm. Now, industry control is more than just for example, preventing you from getting a license, preventing you from making a certain amount of money, being approached by the cabal. There was always a centralized point that was created in order to firstly create the system. But then in addition to that, we have specific raw material control systems that were also put in place. Mm-hmm. So say, for an example, there is a medical technology. Let's just use medical technology because this extends far beyond that into asphalt, into roads, into car parts, into all different kinds of things. Anything under the sun that you could imagine that requires any kind of raw or manufactured raw materials, meaning they have converted them into anything that goes into everything that's in your house. So everything you own, every consumer product has some part to play in this industrial control system. Mm-hmm. So they have created, let's just say the deep state has created a medical technology that is meant to placate your symptoms because they like that. They're not big for cures. They would like to keep you on some kind of medication or something at all times. So this medical technology that they have created requires, let's just say, a specific rare earth mineral in order to function. Now, perhaps there are several technologies that they have created in different industries that require the same raw material to manufacture. And it would be impossible to create another one without that specific raw material. Mm-hmm. So what they do then is they send out groups of operatives, and their job is to go over and take over every single place in the world, in every mining operation in the world that would be responsible for mining this particular rare earth mineral. Hmm. So let's just say you, Sonny, come along several years later, and you create a similar type technology, but that might actually work better, mm-hmm. might actually provide a cure. You know, maybe you are creating a competing product in any one of the industries which they use this rare earth mineral. So here's what's going to happen to you. Now, they get these raw materials for pretty close to free. Therefore, it's a very highly profitable machine for them, number one. Number two, it's serving its function by placating symptoms and not ever having a cure. So that's important to understand, where yours may actually cure over time, let's just say, mm-hmm. as an example. And they get them for, a fairly good cost. Therefore, the cost of their device is, let's just say it's $1,000. In the medical world today, there's hardly anything. You can't even get aspirin 7 days in a row in a hospital for $1,000.
True.
But let's just say the cost for this, all intents and purposes for this example, is $1,000. Now, you have, tested yours, it's patented, it's proven, it's all of these things. But because you need the same rare earth mineral to produce your machine, the cost for you, what cost them maybe say $1 for X amount of this rare earth mineral, will cost you $10,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Therefore, you're now priced out of the market, because if you had paid $10,000 for this small amount to make one, say, machine, and their machine is $1,000, you couldn't never put yours into the marketplace. You couldn't compete.
Right.
Now, they've done this with every single type of material, from lumber or wood, whatever you call it, down to, another way this is done. This is another perfect example most recently. So Russia produces a specific type of nickel. And this specific type of nickel has specifications that allow it to be used for specialty parts, say in oil drilling or in vehicles or these types of things. Now, in Russia, this currently is the only place in the world that is mining this specific nickel. And they have sanctioned recently, within the last several months, I think it's been about a year now, close to, all of the nickel manufacturing parties in Russia. So all of the companies that mm-hmm. produce this specific nickel. And now, because they are all part of the black market operation, or what I call the non-compete program, they still are selling their nickel, but on the black market, and only to their companies that require this specific nickel to manufacture, say, car parts or whatever it is. So there's no harm, no foul on their end of it. They might even get it cheaper, actually, under these circumstances, which is fine by the companies, because they're still making just as much money. Technically, they're using black market routes, so they don't have to pay customs and imports or anything like that, of course. And their companies are still producing these parts. But what it does to you, the car part maker, I'm just using car parts as an example. What it does to you, the car part maker, is you can no longer produce that part that you had, say, a contract with Mercedes or with a, Ford or whomever it is to produce for. So therefore, you now lose all your contracts because you can't make the parts anymore, taking you out of the business. And then therefore, now they have the contracts. It's very sneaky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Very
and it
deceitful.
goes beyond that. I mean, say there's a young high school student that recently came out with, won all these awards and everything because he created a soap that actually prevents skin cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guarantee you, if he were to ever go into the manufacturing of these soap on a high level, and it wasn't through, say, Pfizer or one of these places, I guarantee you there was probably an ingredient in there that they own. Whatever that ingredient is. If it's not synthetically made, it's probably organic. And for all I know, it could be even in some kind of an essential oil or a plant extract or something like that would actually do this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's many of them out there that do. So this, it would be impossible. Yes, he did something very amazing, but he'll never actually profit from it. He'll never actually get anywhere with it. And will 3M, say, ever manufacture it, even though they may have bought the technology, gave him $100,000 or something, patted him on the back, some awards, and sent him on his way. But if he ever went to try to manufacture it himself, even if he had the investment and he wasn't locked out of the financial system for trying to get a loan or some kind of on his patent, then he would be locked out in other ways. So that soap bar, which probably cost him, a few dollars or something like that, USD to make, now goes up to, $40 a bar of soap, and you can't afford $40, for a bar of soap, and there you go. Like there ends that, you're priced out of the market. You're not going to sell anything. I mean, unless it's an anti-aging thing, no one spends $40 to prevent skin. They think, oh, I'll just put my sunscreen on for, $5 that I get at Walgreens or whatever, your local drugstore. And that'll be the end of that. So this is important to understand at this moment in time. Because a lot of you are working on your projects. A lot of you are working on restoration. A lot of you are working on, like we had someone on recently that talked about a different way of doing farming, and not using those products and how expensive it can be, and they know that too. And he's lucky enough to have a farm that's been running for generations, and, he can, afford a little bit, to make a little bit less, on his crops. But that doesn't mean everybody can.
Right.
But I want you to understand this: when you create something and you invent something, you need to also look at, can I source all of this stuff? Now, if mine is a cure for a disease, say, or prevents EMF radiation or something that they're trying to desperately get into you, I guarantee you that once you come out with this specific product in the market, then you are going to be running up against all of these people who specifically are in place to ensure you are not successful. So sourcing raw materials, sourcing all your ingredients for whatever it is you're making, your device, those types of things is equally as important as the execution and manufacturing of your widget, whatever it is. Your cure, even if it's a natural thing, if they could patent plants, they would have patented plants a long time ago. If they could stop you from getting your ingredients, they would have a long time ago. And then there's, of course, crop sabotage. So if, say, yours is an all-natural thing and you can derive it from plants, somebody will come in and burn your house to the ground and burn all your crops, overnight, and you won't even know what happened. And this will happen continuously. So the taking down of the deep state and their systems, while cooperatively working with other people like your economic hitmen and those types of folks to undo each one of these systems, put them back into a proper system for sourcing, is just as important as releasing money for projects, because you'll never get anywhere. It's intended. This is the invisible glass ceiling that makes sure that you will never get anywhere in this world and actually get all of your wonderful things out to the people. And I know that's kind of disheartening, but it's a truth that you need to face and you need to understand. Next, if you're growing agriculture, the other thing they'll do is you'll shut your water off. They just did this recently to all the Mexican farmers in a specific area of Mexico. It's been done several times. It's also been done in certain farming areas here in the United States recently. So take a look at the amount of control that they have just by ordering their people around who apparently are willing to work for free.
So, Kim, what's the answer to that then? Is it just, what you and your team are doing to take these systems down? Is it just to be patient and wait? Because obviously we're going to come up against this stuff.
Just make sure as you're going forward right now, first of all, number one, can you source the raw materials? Mm-hmm. What is the end cost for you to source these materials? Is my widget or whatever you plan on building or growing or whatever it is it something that could be targeted later on once I start to manufacture it at this low price, quote unquote, mm-hmm. And then they find out that I'm, sending out, say, a medical device that actually cures something, are they going to raise the price? Now, you'll probably be visited. That's what will probably happen first. They'll visit you and say, look, we need 10% of all your profits, or we're going to do this to you. Yeah.
That's horrible.
And that's if it's a non-competing item. So they don't have an equal and opposite item. They will also try to buy your technology from you. I've had this happen to me multiple times. I've also had notes and notebooks and different things that I've experimented with stolen from me. So I know these things are going to happen to you. The solution here is, number one, make sure you can source all your materials. Determine whether or not what you're doing could possibly be a target for the deep state. Is this something they want? Is it something they want to take? Do they want to suppress my technology? Just be aware of this. And I know you hate this part. Some people really hate this part. But now do you see the opportunity we have here for operatives? Because there's a lot of guys that are still alive that actually worked as a part of this system and helped create this system back in the, 70s and 80s. They're still around.
Yeah.
They know how this works. They know how it was set up. They know every single person that was involved that they had to take over or push out of the way in order to make this happen. So this is another opportunity for these people to work for something that's positive that will help you out. I'm not saying that, everybody says, oh, why would you want to bring these people into your system? Well, here's another reason why. Mm-hmm. Unless I guarantee you that there are parts of this, and I'm kind of treading lightly on this because we don't want to tip our enemy off to some of the other things that we're doing, as well at the moment. But I'm just giving you a general idea on things that you need to take into account when you're trying to build a new system. Mm-hmm. Another thing that they do, okay, let's say you have a material and you are in a country where you need a port. And as you may or may not know, about 90% of the ports in the world since the 70s have been built by a little tiny company called, and it's not little, but called Halliburton. Halliburton is run by, or was run by, Dick Cheney. Now it's run by whomever. It's closely related to IBM. That's not a surprise there. And if you want a port in your country, you will give the contract to this company one way or another. Now you try to do it on your own. Now all the price of your steel is going to go up. Now your port goes from $100 million port to about $10 billion. Wow. Therefore, you never get a port. The same thing will happen with your train. The same thing that happens when you want to buy a plane to move cargo. That type of thing. Your licensing, everything will get messed up. Anytime you try to introduce something like this somewhere, you're going to get tripped up. All your infrastructure, unless the system is fixed. Now, will these people that are a part of this system continue to operate basically for free? Mm-hmm. Well, that remains to be seen. Right now, they're fighting tooth and nail to the very end. They are helping us at the moment because they are using anything possible that they could even remotely access for any reason whatsoever to block us. So we've been running transfers, 3-4 an hour for the last few days. And this has actually been quite helpful in us getting any remaining operating systems we might have missed. Okay. So now, next. Oh, dear. So there's been a lot of shakeups going on in the pharma world. You know, you're hearing about AstraZeneca no longer producing COVID-19 vaccines. Pfizer is not going to be producing COVID-19 vaccines anymore. They are going to turn their focuses elsewhere. And they're unhappy about the fact that they have not gotten their payouts. And then remember, we were supposed to have a second wave of this. That's right. We get locked down, we get out again. And that didn't quite work out. And so there's a little bit of a rebellion going on amongst the non-compete program people and the deep state for lack of payment. No surprise here. Insurance companies are also not paying the way that they used to. They're starting to go bankrupt. And things are getting pretty touchy out there. Now, remember as well, the deep state, even though they are deep state corporations, they also take 10% of all the profitability off of all of their personal. It's kind of like a membership program to black market products, you know, black market goods and raw materials and that kind of thing. It's your membership fee, like Amazon, but for bad people.
Yeah, no, there you go. Dark people.
So not only are they still having to pay their 10%, but they're not getting anything for it. Now, there were actually operating systems that managed the siphoning of the 10%. Off of everything. These are accounting softwares, you know, everybody uses the same payroll companies, that type of thing. And so the money goes out the back door and goes to the deep state. Now, that's not a possibility anymore, cutting off another revenue stream for them, which is positive for us. But when this did not happen and we did not have what they were expecting, they have decided that the CDC, the FDA, and the World Health Organization have decided to start circulating rumors about coming out with a new bird flu pandemic. Now, this is mainly to appease the big pharma and other companies that were allegedly going to profit off of the COVID pandemic. Second reason is they are losing control of the people that would have participated in the economic assassination of any competitors. Now, these are operatives too. You know, maybe some of them work with the Raymond Reddington crew. We don't know. But what we are seeing is a definite decline in support. So they launched this opportunity a few days ago. An effort to appease them. But not only that, if you recall, right before the eclipse, they actually announced to companies like Airbnb and other major corporations that would be involved, or I should say hindered by another pandemic, which was supposed to happen during the eclipse. Now, everybody is yelling and screaming because nothing happened during the eclipse, and there was no lockdown, and there was no payouts to lockdown, or none of that stuff happened. And so they had to come up with something else. And this is the latest and greatest rumor. Do they have the capacity to create a worldwide bird flu pandemic? No. This is just to push them off to another day ending in Y. And the best I can tell, that day ending in Y is either Monday or Tuesday of next week. And then I guess they're going to try to create the cat flu pandemic or some other kind of pandemic. I'm not sure at this point, but that's where it's at right now. So do I see that as a possibility of a worldwide shutdown? You know, honestly, without the 10%, without, you know, they were the only stores that were open. You know, you remember that. After a while, they reopened. I do not think they can afford to do that. And if they did, it would cut their nose off to spite their face, because any dribbles of income they have that they're siphoning off of airlines and Lockheed Martin and Boeing, it would go away immediately. So
Right.
I wish them all the best in trying to achieve that task. But then again, it's another one of those situations where they just keep telling everybody they're going to get something on an alignment and then nothing happens, which is proving positive for us in a lot of ways.
Well, it does make sense as to why we're seeing different things in the headlines about bird flu. I had a bad feeling about that the moment I saw it. I'm like, oh, really? Something else?
Yep, really. Something else. I don't know what it'll be next, but they're going to, they need to put another spin on it. How do you explain to a bunch of corporate owners that really don't know a whole lot? Some of them probably do, but a lot of them really don't know a whole lot about, they think that just naturally happened.
Yeah.
How many times can you cry wolf?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently if you're deep state, you can cry wolf an awful lot and claim that you're in control an awful lot, or you're going to be in control by a day ending in Y, an awful lot. And everybody just believes you.
It's amazing.
Yep. But they have very little left, and time is running short, and there are people hunting them down as well on the other side. And that's going very well. As far as I know, there's a lot of people that are trying to buy their freedom in some way, shape, or form with promises that they probably have no intention on delivering on either. But that's up to the Raymond Reddingtons of the world, to determine whether they mean it or they didn't. And you get a contract, you get a contract, you got a paying contract. Are you going to believe these people? Most of the times it hasn't worked out the way they thought it would.
Yeah.
Okay, now, other ongoing operations. As promised, we have set forth in motion many back-end operations that are continuously going black one after the other. Mm-hmm. These are operating systems that are still operating, but the back end of it is not visible. Right. So it's not programmable, it's not accessible. Therefore, their ability to get into some of these back systems is gone. Now, some of those things include, but are not limited to, 1G versions 1 through 9, 2G versions 1 through 9, 3G versions 1 through 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, 8 and 9 and 7 were not really accessible by them at all anyway, but by humans. But it was utilized in other ways against us. Okay. There are operating systems as far as towers, cell phone towers, and stuff like that are concerned. There have been some attempts to utilize technologies they did not have access to, but were left here by others. I know that. They were in Tallahassee last night. They were in Boca Raton this morning. So, there's no shortage of running around, that hamster wheel. Mm-hmm. We are less a lot of people with global headquarters.
How many would you say?
Various locations. They don't send too many people, but probably in the last 48 hours, maybe 100 and some change, because they don't send too many people there.
Just in case it doesn't turn out in their favor.
Yeah, and they're kind of all scattered. They're making sure they're not all in the same place. And I really wish they would have a convention and just make it easy.
Me too.
Let it happen. I mean, don't you guys have a Bilderberg meeting type thing or a Bohemian Grove thing you do every year? Probably around some solstice or something. Come on, guys. Gather together,
Seriously. Yeah.
Saying, why can't we be friends? I don't know. Just do something. But it's going very, very well on our side of it. The more transfers we attempt and send out, the more they try to block us. They pull out all the stops, and then we find everything they've got.
So how are they viewing, because it sounds like we've taken a lot of stuff away from them. How are they viewing these transactions?
And that was the thing that was kind of perplexing. So we have done our best to try to get as many operating systems as we could.
Yeah.
And when I say there is an operating system for everything, there was an operating system for everything. And one of the things they were using, and it was a reminder for me to remind you about the pinch points, was the corporate back-end system where they siphoned their 10% out, their fee. There were other fees for banks. There were other lines into different things that were tied to the Black Eagle position. So they were able to utilize some of these things to get into, to at least view, and then eventually when we ran into like the transmission control protocol section, alter it enough so that our stuff would get lost or it would never make it to the customer portal. So, still a little bit more than I thought, honestly. But, this is, millions of years against us and lots of alien help. So it's not like they arrived at these conclusions themselves.
Do you still feel like it's alien tech holding back the transfers? It's nothing directly they're doing.
They did not create this stuff.
Yeah, but they're not doing anything that would stop it. I mean, I know they're trying to do stuff, but is that actually what's stopping the transfers, do you think? Or it's just stuff they don't even have control over?
We've had a combination of things happen in the last couple of days because we're probably about 50 into it, or so, maybe more. It takes probably about 45 minutes to an hour to run a full cycle and see what happens. In some cases, we have run into something called a standing order. So it would be alien technology that has a standing order that was not placed there by humans, but by others it's not so much specifically monetary. It could be energetic wise, energy control, replicator systems where if we get $1, they get $1, that kind of thing. So we've seen a lot more of that. A few times we have seen a few things that are alien technology as well, but perhaps by covenant or agreement, these people had some limited access to that they were able to use. Again, when we get hung up, we're still getting hung up at the very bottom. It's not like it's, like they caused a port 490 error today at the customer portal level. So if those of you techie people out there, you'll know what that is. So we fixed it. And hopefully, we're right. Hopefully we are not too far away. From being able to do that. We will continue throughout the day. I am sure all of you, no matter where you are in the world watching this, will hear me scream.
Me too.
It has been a battle beyond battles, to get to these points. We did have also a few things left regarding the Trinity. This is another one. To kind of explain to you sort of how this works. So, we've talked about us changing timelines, us changing ages, us going into crystalline time, Earth getting cleaner, Earth getting lighter, and all of these processes that are happening throughout the multiverse. Well, again, there were some agreements that had to do with not only AI systems, but also had to do with the creation of matter itself. That were between source, anti-source, and neutral source, which created a trinity source. So some of those base root programs of creation are going away, which also affects us in computers too, because there was a tri-key factor and with no other key on the other end. If you have a dual key system, like maybe you have to enter your key code and your spouse has to enter their key code or the other half or whatever to open the house safe, it's kind of like that. So without, anything going to the other side, their brood, to try to make it even in a war, then it triggers some other type of response there. So it's been kind of those types of things. It's like I said, they're still running around hacking, and God bless them. They're still running around trying to make promises of payments and gateways opening and blah, blah, blah. But, yeah. It's all a lie. Everybody will figure out some point in time it's all a lie. And quite frankly, when we are successful and if you hear just like you're sleeping maybe and you hear some lady screaming, it's probably me, because I finally made it.
The multiverse is going to hear
That's right. I won't even need to put out word to anybody, operatives or otherwise, that we're open for business because, you'll all hear me. But so everything's going very well. We're going according to plan as far as the operations are concerned. We are developing a system for the invisible glass ceiling situation. Okay. I suggest you also take these things into consideration with what you're planning on manufacturing, and account for proper security. Should that need to be the case for whatever it is you're producing. Let's put it that way. I think you're all going to need it. That's my personal opinion.
Is that something that CARE would provide? Kim, didn't we talk about that a little bit before, about CARE taking on some of those responsibilities for the projects? Yes,
and that's something we will provide. We need people for that, right? Mm-hmm. So our people for that would be the ones that are experienced in doing this themselves to other people, because they'll know every way they think, every which way they could have caused this situation to arise. Yeah. They know exactly what to look for when it comes to protecting you and your project. But what I'm saying is when you're putting together your business plan, you need to account for this in every single project that you're doing. Think about what they're going to look for. And realize that this is going to be a factor for everyone. And yes, we expect to see that on just about everything coming out of CARE for a while, because I don't see another way around it. I mean, I can run around and try to fix it, but I'm certainly not going to do that all by myself. There's a lot of people involved that have been living on 10% of everything for their quote unquote protection and services and black market goods and, free oil, free gas, free stuff. So, our stuff, speaking of stuff, our stuff offer was still out there. We're still willing to take some stuff.
No one's reached out as of yet?
Nah. They're still listening to these global headquarters people. I think they like this. They like being lied to, cheated, stolen from, all the stuff, all the good stuff.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, and waiting. They're good waiters. You would think that there would be no shortage of waiters at restaurants because they're waiters. They wait. That's what they do.
Yeah.
So how many are going to jump, when everything is available? I don't know.
It'll be interesting. Yeah.
Until then, we're watching hamsters and waiters.
What a world. What a world.
What a world. What a world.
So interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Well, it's good to hear that, the transfers are happening a lot. I think people like to hear that, that we're testing and then we're finding more of their stuff. And
testing, then find, clean, run again, find, clean, run again.
Yeah.
Until we're done. But, safety is going to be first. Security is going to be first. That is going to be our number one priority, to keep all of you safe and to keep the things that you're creating safe, and also to distribute them safely. So these are all things that you need to take into consideration. Also, customs fees. How do you get around customs fees? There's a black market for that.
Of course.
By the way. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just not invited to the club. And even 10% isn't going to get you invited to the club. Unless you know the club owners.
Right.
So, or the other people that transport lots of things that are, let's just say, not things we might agree with, but they can get anything in and out of anywhere.
I'm sure.
So, there's positives, negatives. I'm not saying we're going to all sit around the campfire and sing songs and eat s'mores anytime in the near future, but there's definitely business to be had.
Yeah.
Lots of it. So I'm looking forward to moving forward. And that being said, we're about a few minutes away here from doing more transfers.
All right. Well, hop to it.
I'm going to.
Thanks, Kim. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good, Sunny.
Want to share news from UNN? Help us change the face of social media and use it for good.